All right, let's get a little more perspective on this by bringing in the former Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence. Mr. Vice President, good to see you.
Thank you, John. Good to see you.
It's been a while. Hope you're keeping well.
Very well.
So we're getting a little more meat on the bones of this memorandum of understanding. It was read out to Sandra and myself and a number of, or Sandra and me and a number of other people by a senior administration official, all 14 clauses of this agreement. You have described this, though, as much bigger than a mistake, saying it smacks of appeasement. Put some meat on that bone for us.
Well, first, let me give a great credit to President Trump for making the decision for the first time in modern history to unleash the armed forces of the United States against Iran last year and this year, and our troops have responded brilliantly. This president has done more to degrade the threat that the Iranian regime has posed to the United States, Israel, and our allies than any president in history. That said, I do have concerns about the memorandum of understanding now that we see it, and the terms about what's in it and also what's not in it suggest to me that it does smack of the kind of appeasement that our administration rejected in the Obama-Iran nuclear deal, and also as Joe Biden attempted to return to the politics of appeasement during his administration. I mean, here's the elements of it. Number one, what's not in it? There's no specific commitment to the verifiable dismantling of their nuclear weapons program that they've pursued for decades. There's no commitment in the MOU for the dismantling of their ballistic missile program. There's no commitment to end supporting terrorist proxies that have wreaked havoc, claimed 1,000 American service members' lives, and sown violence across the region for decades. That's what's not in it. But what's in it that's concerning to me is, first and foremost, we end a blockade that has put enormous pressure and brought Iran to the table. Secondly, my understanding that if this agreement is signed tomorrow, that there will be an immediate lifting of economic sanctions on the sale of oil. That could mean $3 billion a year.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
Directly into the coffers of the regime.
And what do you think they'll do with that money?
Well, money's fungible. They can do whatever they want with it. And without those other undertakings, we don't know.
Build more missiles, build more drones.
The second piece, though, is $100 billion in frozen assets. If you read the MOU, it actually suggests that if there is progress in the negotiations themselves, even before a deal is done, that some of those unfrozen assets could be released to Iran. And lastly, the $300 billion deal that you all were just unpacking from overseas, the United States makes a commitment here to arrange for other countries in the region to make those resources available. Look, my bottom line, I don't trust the Iranians. I agree with you, Hewitt, in that regard. I've had too much dealings with them in my years in the Situation Room and in my years on Capitol Hill in the Foreign Affairs Committee. There's the old saying that says, trust but verify. But when it comes to the mullahs in Tehran, we need to verify, and then trust. Verify that they're dismantling this nuclear program.
I mean, you could go
dismantling the bombs, abandoning terrorist proxies, or we got to stay at the negotiating table.
Or you could go so far as to say, never trust, always verify.
Yeah, I would say that as well, John.
Yeah. So there was one aspect of this memorandum of understanding read to us earlier today, just about an hour ago, by a senior administration official that I found puzzling because we hadn't heard this before. We'd heard it from the Iranians. We heard it a little bit from the Omanis, that for 60 days, the Strait of Hormuz will be open to free, unencumbered shipping. But then after that 60-day period, Iran and Oman and other Gulf countries can enter into talks about some sort of administration of the Strait of Hormuz that could end up in fees being charged. Now, the president, or sorry, not the president, but the senior administration official dismissed that idea, saying Gulf nations would never agree to that. Right. But there's still a provision in there for these talks to happen. Well,
the specific language in the MOU is something to the effect of will facilitate commerce. How they do that, or no, they say ensure commerce in this. They don't say whether they're going to charge tolls or whether there's going to be fees. What we need to demand is the restoration of the freedom of navigation that existed in the Strait of Hormuz before shots were fired here. And that's why I really do believe, John, and look, I was encouraged that the president only said today that it's most likely that we will sign the deal. If I was at his side, as I was for 4.5 years, I would urge the president to take a step back keep that blockade in effect, go back to the negotiating table and tell the Iranians, here's the deal. We won, you lost. If we need to prove that further to you, our armed forces are capable of doing that. But demand, we need a commitment that your nuclear program is going to be dismantled and abandoned, your ballistic missile program dismantled and abandoned, that you are no longer going to support Hamas and Hezbollah and terrorist groups across the region. Freedom of navigation. If we don't have those commitments, John, I really do believe that we should unleash the armed forces of the United States and Israel, open the strait, end the threat the Iranian regime poses, give the Iranian people an opportunity for freedom, and do it all on our terms.
Because all of that, including ballistic missiles into malign activities in the Middle East, was in the proposals that the first administration that you were in was going for. I want to ask you about this because what brings you to Washington, D.C. is your new book, What Conservatives Believe. You were a devotee of Ronald Reagan and the conservative agenda. You have suggested that Trump in his second term has gotten away from the core conservative agenda. And you say that the modern Republican Party is under challenge not only from the far left, but also the populist right, which is getting away from that core conservative agenda. Explain.
John, thanks. That's a great description of why I wrote What Conservatives Believe. Look, for the last 50 years, the Republican Party, from the Reagan administration to the first Trump administration, was defined by a commitment to a strong defense, American leadership in the world, limited government, traditional values, and the right to life. And politics has changed. The Democratic Party has been overrun by the progressive left, embracing socialism and questioning our alliances in the world, including our support for Israel in anti-Semitic terms. But there is a new threat to the conservative movement from the populist right that would embrace isolationism, big government solutions, marginalize the right to life. And it's had some purchase in the administration, but not all. The new Trump administration has gotten a lot right, secured the southern border, extended the tax cuts, stood up to Iran, stood with Israel. But the stops and starts on Ukraine, John, some of the big government initiatives, as well as marginalizing the right to life, tell me that we have an important debate in our party, whether we're going to remain committed to the conservative agenda that has defined our party for 50 years, or whether we'll follow the siren song of populism unmoored to conservative principles. And I intend to be a voice for those conservative principles that drew me to the party and that really guided all the years that the president and I served together at the White House. Well,
we'll be watching this as 2028 unfolds, which is going to happen very soon. Mr. Vice President, always good to spend time with you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Sandra?
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.